Nothing. I will never forget the time I was in Israel with my husband. Well, that was the second time, but the first time with my mother on a pilgrimage. And I was standing in the ticket line. And I remember looking behind me, and in the snake of the ticket line was a guy who looked very familiar. I had no idea who he was. And I told my mom, this guy looks so familiar. And as a typical mother, she said, go and say hi. No. We were late for our flight, and I'm not going to come off like a crazy person that's just weird. That ended up being Charlie. Nothing is by coincidence. Now, did we know that? No, not until we were like 3 months into our relationship and looking at timestamps, seeing that both of us were in Israel at the same time. But nothing is by coincidence when God is within you, okay? So you guys go blaze a trail, okay? God bless you all.
Anyways, so we had met through a family friend. He had invited me to the office opening for Turning Point USA, which I know several of you guys are supporters of, so thank you for all of your support for Turning Point USA. And so I went to the office opening, and he was like, you need to meet the CEO, and I was like, okay, great. I don't know. I was not familiar with that world at all. But the interesting point is that year, that was in August. In May, I had taken a pilgrimage with my mom to Israel. And my whole intention of that trip was to find my future husband. If there was a hole in a rock anywhere to put a prayer, and those of you who've been to Israel, you know the Wailing Wall, all the different places you can stick a prayer on a little piece of paper, that was me. Like, had a piece of paper everywhere, little, put in prayer, God heard me, answered. So that was my whole thing. So after that, it was our last day on that trip, and there's this most precious server that was there, and he looked at me at the end of the trip, and I was saying goodbye, and he was like, I'll see you again soon. He's like, I'll see you here in about 1.5 years from now with your husband. And I was like, oh.
I haven't heard this part of the story.
I know, because I usually give this, I feel like I need to give okay, so we're giving like the real, and so I usually don't tell this part because it's very intimate, but I feel like I should. Bloom where you're planted, right? Okay. So he said that to me. I carried that in my heart. I timestamp things in my phone. When someone says something or I overhear something, I use my notes all the time, and I like to look back to see what time that was, what year that was. I save all that. Anyway, so I have it in my phone. And thrown off by it, held it in my heart, didn't think anything of it. Then I went to go to the ticket line to leave. I was with my mom. There's only a few flights out at the night in Israel back to the States, and so I was standing there at the ticket line, and there was a guy who was checking out with the guy, you know what I'm talking about, get your ticket, check your bag. And I see him, and I was like, huh, I tell my mom, I was like, that guy looks really familiar, and my mom was like, go say hi. Those of you who know my mom, like, that's something, go say hi and say hi to him. I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I don't know. I just looks familiar. And so anyways, flight, fast forward from May to August. I'm standing in the office, and our family friend was like, you need to meet the owner, blah, blah, blah. And he turns around and I was like, oh, hi. You're the guy from the ticket line? Oh. It was so coy that I was like, oh, nice to meet you. Like, I have to get back to New York, so I'll see you again soon, I think. And so he had discussed, the mutual family friend worked for Charlie, and they were trying to get me to do like a faith component within Turning Point USA. And I would say 2.5 weeks later, I'm in the Hamptons with one of my uncles, and I get a random DM on Instagram, and you never know, like, if these people are the real people or whatever. Anyway, so it was Charlie. It was in my DMs, and he was like, hey, I'm in New York. I want to sit down and talk to you about the faith stuff. I have a Fox hit, total, like, name drop. I have a Fox hit to do in the city, and then I need to meet with you afterwards, so it's going to be really late. And I was like, it's fine. So he chooses a place, Bill's Burgers. Never been there before in this city, and I've lived there for like 6 years. I'm like, where in the world are we going? Burgers. So we sit down, we have burgers. He grills me for 3.5 hours. Thank God the restaurant was open late, because we were there for a very long time. Philosophy, politics, anything you can imagine that Charlie loves to talk about, which is a lot of stuff. It was just like go time. It was like college campus Charlie, but like in between French fries. And so we're just going at it. in a good way. And so we were going back and forth, and he was done, and he just like wiped his mouth, put his napkin down. He looked at me, and he was like, well, I'm not going to hire you. And I was like, well, I didn't really need the job, but I was here because you had asked me to be here. But he was like, I'm going to date you. And I was like, you don't want to just be friends? He's like, no, I have enough friends in my life. And I was like, so do I have time to think about it? He's like, yeah, until tomorrow night when I take you out to dinner. And I was like, oh. So I call my mom on the walk home, because my mom is my best friend. She's my world. And I call her, and I was like, so she goes, how was it? How did it go? And I was like, okay, well, first of all, it was the guy that I saw in Israel at the ticket line. So let's just get that straight. So that was just a total God thing. Second, he asked to date me, not to hire me. And I need to walk home right now so I can